My ex has a restraining order against me and now lives in the same apartment complex. My ex-wife and I had a rocky marriage. My alcoholism didn't help, and she pushed for divorce. We lived together during this divorce, and one day I found out she was dating another man. I snapped and hit her pretty hard. I was charged with a crime, spent 3 months in jail, went to anger management, and I was also issued a 3-year restraining order. This was 2 years ago. I have since sobered up, met a wonderful woman, and moved to a completely different apartment complex in a completely different part of the city. I never had any further contact with my ex-wife. I admit what I did was wrong. I paid a price. I've since re-established myself. My current woman, who I've been in a relationship with for 2 years, is aware of this background story, which makes things slightly easier. Well, unknown to me, my ex moved into my apartment complex about 5 months ago with her now new husband, who had always lived here, but I did not know this. I saw her in the lobby just before New Year's. She greeted me, I turned shocked and said hello. She asked me what I was doing in the lobby and I said I was just coming in from work. She told me that the restraining order is still in effect and that I need to move out. I tried to reason with her and told her I'd be happy to steer clear of her. I know we don't live on the same floor. I don't even know what floor she lives on. I don't care to know. I told her if I saw her on the elevator, I wouldn't get in and just wait for the next one. But she told me she was going to enforce the restraining order against me. My partner and I literally just signed a brand new 2-year lease 6 months ago. We love the place we live in and wouldn't want to move. And it feels unjust having to move/incur financial hardship because the person I had a restraining order against moved into my apartment complex. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because last night the building management was informed of the restraining order and told us we need to figure this out. Would she really be able to force me out of my home even though I lived here before her? As long as I do my best to avoid any contact with her, which I'm perfectly fine doing, shouldn't that be sufficient? I work a really early schedule, and the fact she was dating this guy and coming over to this apartment complex for the entire time I've been here, and we ran crossed paths, and she's been living here full-time for 5 months and just recently crossed paths. Not sure what to do. FYI, this is New York City. Am I the a-hole I upset my pregnant wife and caused her to cry? My wife is 2 months pregnant. Yesterday was my birthday. When I went into the kitchen, my wife told me that she was going to work and wouldn't be home until late. She didn't even acknowledge my birthday. I asked her if she had made any breakfast. She usually cooks breakfast for me on my birthday, but she told me to manage with cereal. I thought maybe she wants to surprise me or something and just kept quiet. My parents, siblings, and friends called me after that to wish me. I cooked lunch for the both of us and drove to my wife's office to spend time with her. I sat in the park opposite to her office waiting for her to come out for lunch. I think one of her colleagues saw me waiting for her and informed her, because she came down soon after and told me to go back home and not embarrass her in front of her colleagues. I handed her the lunch and asked her to at least have it instead of the cafeteria food. She took it and threw it into the trash. I was hurt and embarrassed, so I immediately left for home. I was really upset by then and no longer wanted to spend time with her. I went to a movie, ate at my favorite diner, then went to the beach for the rest of the evening. When I went back home, my wife surprised me with a cake and party. My in-laws and parents were there. I ignored my wife and went back into the room. My mom got mad at me because apparently my wife was crying. I then proceeded to narrate everything that happened that day to everyone present. My mom was the only one to side with my wife because she's pregnant. My wife defended herself, saying that her colleagues were teasing her by calling me a hand-packed husband. Now my mom is saying I'm being a baby and that my wife is pregnant and I shouldn't be making her cry. My in-laws and my dad are supporting me. Am I the a-hole? I, 24 female, got into an argument with my boyfriend, 25 male, over sharing a bed with my mother or sister. For some context, my mom, me, and my sister are very close. She raised us by herself, so it has always been just us. She's married now to our wonderful stepdad, who I'm also close to, and I spend time with my family whenever I can. After my mom finished her master's a few years ago and got settled into her career, she has made a point to have a girls' weekend once a month, or at least spend a day together. This often entails a small road trip to a nearby town, a theme park if it's during the summer, or during quarantine we just video chat for a few hours and drink wine. Whatever it is we do, my mom foots the whole bill. She says it's her way to make up for not being able to afford much when we were growing up. Our significant others are always welcome to join, but in the past they haven't usually. My stepdad and my sister's fiancé actually get along great, and they have gone fishing during these weekends before. Overall, I love my family dynamic and have no plans on changing it. Now onto the issue. I met my boyfriend about a year ago. We have always gotten along great, and my family loves him. He has joined us on these trips once or twice and seemed to have a good time. Last weekend was a girls' weekend, and we were planning to go to a city about an hour away. We planned on leaving Friday and returning Sunday night. Boyfriend was invited but declined as he had plans. I thought that was the end of it. About an hour before I headed out, I mentioned how the Airbnb we rented only had one bed. So I was probably going to end up sharing that with my mom or sister, or I was going to sleep on the couch. He seemed very weirded out by that. He said something like, "You don't feel awkward sharing a bed with your mom? How can you not see how weird that is? I would never share a bed with my mom or a sibling. Blah, blah, blah." I told him he was being weird and gross, and that they were family. He then mentioned how I often sleep naked, which is not even a decent argument because obviously I'm not gonna sleep naked with my freaking mother or sister. I told him it wouldn't be the first time we have shared a bed, and that he needed to drop it. This resulted in an actual screaming match that went out for like 20 minutes. He doesn't live with me, so I told him to get out and give me his key before I left, which he was reluctant to do. He then told me to just sleep on the couch and none of this would be an issue, which I told him there was no issue, and that it was being weird. I asked him multiple times by sharing a bed with my mother or sister was even a problem, and he wouldn't give me a straight answer. I left. I didn't answer a single one of his many calls or messages over the weekend. I got back Sunday night, but I've only spoken to him once. He is still demanding I apologize and reiterating how wrong the situation was. Is there something I'm not seeing here? Is it actually that weird to share a bed with your own family? Right now, our relationship is in limbo, and I'm thinking of ending it. But I have had a few friends now tell me they can understand where he's coming from, and that I should just apologize and move on because our relationship is great otherwise. Any advice? Am I the a-hole for choosing to live in a city which will make it nearly impossible for my ex to see his child? I, 28 female, got divorced from my ex-husband John, 38 male, of 6 years in June this year. In 2019, I was diagnosed with PCOS and after multiple treatments and many complications, was told that I probably wouldn't be able to have a child naturally. We'd been trying for a baby for 3 years, and as expected, this devastated us. Our marriage suffered because while I eventually made my peace with the situation, John couldn't seem to get past it. I suggested fostering and adoption, but his heart wasn't in it anymore. After months of hostility, zero intimacy, and withdrawn affection, we asked for couples therapy. He responded that he'd rather have a divorce. He said he'd been checked out for a while and there was no point dragging things out. I was heartbroken, and it didn't help that I was stuck living with him throughout the lockdown. I eventually accepted the end of our marriage, and as we went through the divorce process, I prepared for the move back to my hometown across the country. Shortly before I moved out, we slept together. I know. It was an impulsive mistake, fueled by alcohol and loneliness, and he made sure I knew it meant nothing. Anyway, I eventually moved back and it's been wonderful. I'd forgotten how much I love being near my family and friends. I was slowly adjusting to single life when I found out that I am pregnant. Yep, I know, right? What are the chances? I told John about the pregnancy and he was over the moon. But for some reason, he assumed that I would be moving back to live with him. When I told him that I have no intention of moving back, but rather raising our child in my hometown, he lost his mind and accused me of trying to keep our child from him out of spite. I told him that he could move if he wanted to be closer to his child, but he insisted that he wouldn't be able to find work out here, that it made more sense for me to move back because I've only been at my new job a few weeks, and it wouldn't be as much of a sacrifice as leaving the job that he's had for 11 years. He offered to pay for the move, a new apartment, etc., but I turned it down and explained that if I stay, I'll be able to keep working because my family's here to support me. And that mom and sisters have already been such a big help with finding a place to stay, preparing for baby, seasoned mom advice, moral and emotional support, and so I feel more confident having them around. If I moved back, I would essentially have to be a stay-at-home mom, which I really don't want. He told his family about the baby without warning me, and now I'm being bombarded with criticism from every direction and being threatened with legal action for alienating them from baby. I don't see why I should be the one to compromise after having to up and move my whole life the way I did. Am I the a-hole for calling my brother-in-law out for his weaponized incompetence and calling him pathetic at dinner? I, female 24, have a sister, female 32, who has a husband, male 38, who is the poster child of weaponized incompetence. They have 4 kids, female 10, male 8, male 5, female 3, and she's pregnant. My sister works a full-time job, 40+ hours a week, cleans her entire house, cooks, takes care of all her children, without him doing anything. It is seriously mind-blowing that she wakes up like 4 a.m., cooks breakfast, does chores, gets all of her kids ready for school, takes them all to school and daycare, and all he does is stay home and work. And when his kids get home, after my sister picks them up of course, he will play with them for a little and play video games until he falls asleep. And she actually makes more than him. My fiancé, male 26, and I had to stay with them for 6 weeks while our home was being renovated. And since we both work from home, we helped her, and it is amazing how much happier she is when she has help. I helped with the kids, and my fiancé even drove her to doctor's appointments. Her husband literally only acknowledges he is a parent when his family's around. Then he is a God-fearing, hard-working father of 5. He's the one that wanted more kids. She wanted to stop after her last baby, but he needed more boys. I am seriously concerned, not only for her, but her kids as well. Because now her oldest is seeing what's happening and trying to help. But my sister is prideful and refuses to let her child do anything. Me and this man have never gotten along. He's been acting like this since their 8-year-old was born. I've tried talking to her about leaving, but she doesn't want her kids to grow up in a broken home. And unfortunately, her experience with our parents' divorce was completely different than mine, so she doesn't understand that a divorce would benefit her kids here because she thinks they need their mom and dad together. Cut to this past weekend, her and her husband threw a pre-Thanksgiving potluck, where our entire family plus his was there. I stayed with my sister a few days before because I knew he wouldn't help. So, we're at dinner all talking, and I mentioned we are trying for a baby, and my brother-in-law makes an offhanded comment to him about how hard fatherhood is. I snapped and said, like you would know. He looked taken aback and asked me what I meant, and I unloaded on him, calling him a pathetic excuse for a man who makes my 8 months pregnant sister do everything for their family. I went off for a solid 10 minutes, and he sat there shrinking in a seat. I left. Last night, my sister called me and thanked me for standing up for her and told me she appreciated me. Although today I got a very nasty text from him telling me I'm a terrible person and that because I lied in front of his family, his mom is angry at him and is moving in with him to help her out, and that I've made him the laughingstock of his family. He certainly thinks so, but am I the a-hole for doing this? Am I the a-hole for forcing my brother and his girlfriend to terminate? So I'm a 24-year-old who moved out of their parents' place a couple years back. My parents are terrible people and were very cruel to me and my brother growing up. I very much enjoyed a space to myself, and it has been the only time in my life I've truly felt safe. My twin brother, Zach, didn't move out and was also pretty miserable living with my parents. Then about 8 months ago, he asked if he and his girlfriend, Kat, could stay with me for a while, as he started school a couple years after me and isn't financially in a place where he can afford his own place. Knowing how awful my parents are, and how much of a good guy and gal Zach and Kat are, it really wasn't much of a decision. I just told them to chip in when they can, and as long as I'm not paying for their food or anything like that, it's chill for the time being. Things have been fine, and Zach and Kat have been nothing but respectful to me and my place. The place is on the smaller side, but Zach is usually at school or work, and Kat works a good amount of the time, so I'm not usually super bothered by it. Their plan is to move out once Zach graduates, which will probably be 2023 at the rate is going. So I'd most likely be living with them another year and a half to 2 years. Now that wasn't much of an issue to me as they don't really have anywhere to go, and I totally get not wanting to move back in with our parents. The thing is though, about a week back they revealed to me they were pregnant. While I think it's awesome, and I'm excited for them, this severely throws a wrench into our living arrangement. I really can't deal with a baby living with us for the extended future. I'm someone who's very sensitive to noises and suffers insomnia. So a crying baby would literally make my life hell on earth. When I asked them what they were planning on doing, they said they were going to keep it as Kat doesn't believe in abortion. And they feel as if they'd make good parents. They definitely would. They're great people. I said, oh well, congrats then. We ended the conversation there for that night. The next day, I asked them what their plans were for housing in the near future, as they know about my sleeping condition and how I'd feel with a baby/toddler in the house. They said they'd have to stay here as they didn't really have anywhere else to go. I told them that won't be happening for reasons stated earlier. They both got very upset and accused me of forcing them to terminate their baby. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife she should be thankful my daughter only called the cops and didn't press charges on her? I've been with my wife for 4 years. I have a 20-year-old daughter, and she and my wife were never able to form a strong bond, and one of the reasons for that is distance. My wife did try to get close to my daughter in the past, but my daughter claimed she was just attempting to control her, rather than have a respectful relationship with her. They had past issues, but now get along a bit. My daughter was visiting for Thanksgiving and brought her Honda car with her. I was out of the house when my wife, whose car had been sitting in the garage for a month now, took my daughter's car keys without her permission while she was showering and left in it for nearly 2 hours. My daughter called me as soon as she got out of the bathroom and was freaking out, saying neither her car or my wife was there. I tried to calm her down as I tried to get a hold of my wife, but she did not respond. We at this point figured my wife took the car, but did not know where she was or when she was coming back. My daughter searched my wife's closet, then called the cops and reported her car taken. She called back to tell me my wife's closet was half empty, and cops were called. I got off work and went home immediately. And on the way home, my wife called crying because she just picked up by the cops at Walmart and was brought into the station. I went over there and met my daughter there. We discussed what happened, and it turned out my wife took the car to go do some shopping and left my daughter a note in the kitchen to let her know since she doesn't have her number, and took clothes from her closet she packed earlier in the morning for church donations. But my daughter thought she ran away and told the cops that this woman, my wife, ran away with her car. My daughter got her car back, and my wife was let go after filling out a form. I took her home, and that is where she had a fight with my daughter, calling her crazy for calling the cops on her and few other things I can't remember. But I told my wife what she did was unacceptable, and she should be grateful my daughter only called the cops in a moment of panic and did not press charges after what she did. My wife was shocked and started crying, saying she couldn't believe I sided with my daughter after she humiliated her and caused her panic and to be involved with the cops like that. I stated that she should have not touched that key in the first place, and she defended herself, saying she was getting things done and buying stuff we needed for the house, but we made her out to be the bad guy. She left her sister's place, saying she had enough of my daughter's disgraceful and vindictive attitude towards her, and said she'll stay there indefinitely or until I get my priorities straight. Because after what happened, she's no longer sure if she is my wife or whether she was treated as such. Edit. My wife's car isn't working and has been in the garage for a while now. That is why she took my daughter's car. Am I the a-hole for having my wedding on brother's divorce anniversary? I, male 28, have been engaged to my fiancé, female 26, for almost a year. What caused the delay was my future mother-in-law falling sick. My fiancé and I decided to have our wedding on January 11th, 2022. We've already booked a venue, set the guest lists, food menu, etc. My parents live hours away, but once they received the invitations, they called to confirm the date, then demanded I drop everything and come alone to talk about the issue they're having with the date. I took time off work and went to see them, and they sat me down to remind me that on the 11th of January 2 years ago, my brother Isaac, 30, got officially separated from his ex-wife of 8 years. They went on about what a dreadful day that day is for the family of Isaac, and told them he won't come to my wedding since this day happens to be his divorce anniversary. Unless I change the date, since he said he's planning on getting drunk and crying his eyes out for doing what he did, and caused his ex to leave him. I was flabbergasted. Like, I couldn't tell if they were kidding, but I politely said I'm sorry, but not changing the date, period. Dad angrily said, "Why the rush? You have a lifetime ahead of you. No harm in moving the wedding date. Think about it." I explained that my fiancé and I already paid for the venue and set everything up, so we can't cancel it now. Mom firmly told me to leave my fiancé out it because she had nothing to do with the conversation we were having. I got upset and said I'm not changing my wedding date. And Mom said that I'm clearly choosing a day-long celebration over my brother, and warned me that I'll have to live with the fact I ruined my relationship with him over this. Dad added, telling me to think of it this way: I'm getting married on the very same date my brother's marriage ended, and asked how I can possibly not feel guilty for having my wedding anniversary be my brother's divorce anniversary for years to come. But I argued that Isaac's only himself to blame for sleeping with someone else while married. And my ex-sister-in-law was right to decide she was having none of it. My parents justified it as he was drunk, but the outcome's the same. Before I left, they said if Isaac isn't coming, then they too won't come to the wedding, which devastated me because I want my family with me to share my joy. Because this is a big deal for me, and I wasn't sure if my parents have a point seeing more and more family are saying they won't attend if I'll still have my wedding on January 11th. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for siding with my husband when he insulted my brother? I'm 27 female, the youngest of 4 children. 31 female, 33 male, and 35 female. I got married 6 months ago to my high school sweetheart, 27 male. My husband has been part of our family since we had our first anniversary together. He knows all my family members and they adore him. My family is very problematic though. All of them, except one of my sisters, are babying my 33-year-old brother too much. My brother is single and he's disappointed no woman approaches him. He used to date a girl 3 years ago, but she broke up with him because she couldn't deal with his immaturity. My brother is very immature and has a superiority complex. He's always putting other people down, he's very judgmental, and he always wants to make himself the center of attention. He's also insulted my husband behind his back multiple times, and I've gotten huge fights with him about this. He has admitted he's mad that my husband, who's younger than him, has his life set, and he thinks my husband owes him respect because he's older, and demands my husband never speaks of his goals or achievements in front of him. It's gotten so bad to the point we've gone low contact with my brother. My mom, dad, and one of my sisters believe that life is unfair for my brother, and they said they wish he had what my husband and I have. My mom also believes that my brother is too good for any woman, since no woman deserves such a precious person like him. I'm now pregnant with my first child, and I invited my family into a casual dinner to make the announcement. We invited my brother too. But then during the announcement, my brother commented something along the lines of, "Oh, now my dear brother-in-law is showing off about knocking up my sister," which was very insulting to both me as a woman, but also my husband. Then my husband then replied to him, before I could talk, and told him, "With this attitude, you still wonder why no woman puts up with you? You complain about being alone too much for someone who displays behaviors that will be the reason you stay alone forever. Now apologize to my wife and then to me." My mom, dad, and sister sided with my brother, but my other sister sided with us. I told my brother that he either apologizes or he walks out, and how he ruined our announcement with his entitlement. My brother got up and left. My parents and sister stayed, but my mom and sister took me to the side and told me I'm the a-hole for siding with my husband and embarrassing my brother by throwing him under the bus, and how I could have sorted this out in private without speaking up. Am I the a-hole for turning the oven off while cooking Thanksgiving dinner after my husband kept shouting orders at me? I, 33 female work-from-home job, have been married to my husband, 37 male working in the military, for a year. We had a long-distance relationship, but I'd met his family a handful of times. I wasn't allowed to take part in Thanksgiving dinner preparation till I was officially married into the family. This year, my husband invited his family to spend Thanksgiving with us. I was happy to cook Thanksgiving turkey for the family, but the thing is, whenever we're having guests over and I'm the one cooking, my husband pops into the kitchen every few minutes, literally shouting stuff like, "So how we doing? The chicken's not ready yet? Hurry up, let's go. And that shrimp ain't going to cook itself. And let's go, come on. Guests are starving. And you're too slow, move faster. And come on, let's go. Like I was in the military or one of his recruits. P.S. frog voice from constantly yelling. Him constantly pressuring me like that cost me so many injuries because I crack under pressure and get really stressed, resulting in having accidents. Thanksgiving Day, while I was cooking dinner, he did the same thing. He kept coming into the kitchen saying, "Folks are getting hungry. What's taking you so long?" Then full on shouting, "Come on, let's go. And hurry up, let's go, move." I was like angry at this point, but his family were dumbfounded. His mom offered to help, but I said thanks and warned him to stop or I will stop cooking. But he doubled down with an expected 4 minutes. Let's go. I stop, turn the oven off, and tell him I was done, no more cooking. He starts arguing with me, saying he can't stop mid-task. But I apologized to the family and tell his mom she was welcome to finish the turkey. But he didn't allow her and told him he was taking them to eat out to spite me after what I did. I was shocked. I didn't expect this. They literally got in their cars and left. He got home by 11. and said what I did, turning the oven and refusing to serve his family who were guests, were tasteless and irresponsible. I said it was putting me under pressure, and I couldn't take it, but still said this was on me since he is used to military routine. And I'm acting like I'm surprised with how he tends to get things mixed up between work and home. It's been days that he keeps cold shouldering me for ruining our first Thanksgiving with his family. Despite saying I'm not angry, I got better things to do, his family's pissed. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for standing on a chair while 7 months pregnant and then blaming my husband when I almost fell? I'm 7 months pregnant and I can't reach the top shelves in our cupboards without standing on a chair. I wanted to make a snack, but I couldn't reach one of the ingredients to make it. And climbing on a chair at this point is both difficult and not something my husband wants me to do. So I went to ask my husband if he could get it for me. But he was on an important work call, so he told me to wait 5 minutes. 5 minutes turned into 30, and by that time he had to be in a meeting which lasted over an hour. I got impatient and I was hungry, so I decided to just climb on the chair and get it myself. I was just grabbing it when my husband walked in and asked me what the hell I was doing. I didn't hear him approaching, so his voice scared me and I almost fell off the chair. He tried to use it as justification for why I should have been on the chair in the first place. But I told him it was his fault because if he hadn't scared me, I never would have almost fallen. I also said it was his fault because he had not got it for me when I asked. And he said he was sorry but he had a meeting. I asked him what the point of being the boss was, if he couldn't be 30 seconds late to help his pregnant wife quickly, which in hindsight was a petty thing to say. This really upset him, and he told me not to blame him and that I shouldn't have used the chair in the first place, since we had already agreed I wouldn't. He also told me not to do it again. Am I the a-hole?